All right, so we're diving into how to talk to anyone, and looks like getting ready to supercharge those communication skills. We're talking body language secrets, becoming like a small talk ninja, even mastering the art of the grand entrance like a celebrity.
Some big goals there.
Big goals. But luckily, this book breaks it all down, into really manageable techniques, practical stuff you can actually use. Now, I'm curious, have you ever felt you've struggled to connect with someone just because of awkward silences or not knowing what to say?
Oh, yeah. That's something I think almost everyone can relate to at some point. What's interesting is this book kind of tackles that head on. It argues that one of the most fundamental things in any interaction is making the other person feel liked and comfortable.
It's like that secret ingredient, isn't it, to a good conversation?
It is.
Instead of focusing on our own awkwardness, we shift that focus to making the other person feel at ease, and all of a sudden, the whole dynamic changes.
It's exactly. The Hega dives into the psychology behind this, suggesting that this desire for connection and validation, it's incredibly powerful. When someone feels seen and appreciated, the conversation flows more naturally.
Yeah.
And that initial awkwardness just melts away.
It's like unlocking the secret code to better interactions.
Yeah.
The book even suggests taking this a step further with this technique called acting as if. Have you ever heard of this?
Oh, yeah.
Where you act as if you already like someone, and then your body language will naturally kind of follow suit, and then eventually that pretend liking might turn into a real genuine connection.
Yeah, it's a fascinating concept, right? Almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. By approaching someone with that kind of warmth and openness, even if you're not entirely feeling it at first, you can actually trigger a positive response in them. And then that response in turn can make you feel more genuinely connected to them.
Yeah.
But the key is authenticity. I mean, we've all seen those, like forced smiles and overly enthusiastic nods that just come across as, well, insincere.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of coming across well, the book also dives into how we present ourselves. That dreaded question, what do you do? Well, the book has some interesting, unique tips for answering it, suggests tailoring your response to the person that you're talking to, highlighting aspects of your work that might genuinely interest them.
Yeah, it's a great reminder that communication isn't this one-size-fits-all approach.
Right.
The book really emphasizes the power of adapting your language,
Mm.
even using a thesaurus to find more impactful words.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it suggests this 2-month challenge of ditching overused words like good, nice, in favor of, more descriptive alternatives, kind of like a vocabulary boot camp for your brain.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like upgrading your conversational toolbox.
Exactly.
Now, get ready for this because this part blew my mind. Have you ever noticed how people sometimes subtly mirror each other's movements in a conversation?
Mm-hmm.
Well, according to this book, this mirroring technique can actually build instant rapport.
Yeah. It's a powerful tool, but it's all about subtlety. When it's done right, mirroring someone's body language, tone, even their word choices, it can create this unconscious sense of familiarity and connection.
Wow.
But if you're not careful, it can backfire.
Right.
It can come across as creepy mimicry. I'm curious, have you ever experienced someone trying too hard to mirror you?
Oh, I have, and it's so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It just makes you realize how important it is to be genuine, to read the other person's cues, and if they seem uncomfortable, back off, try a different approach. Speaking of cues, this book really dives deep into this world of nonverbal communication. And get this, it claims that over 80% of first impressions are based on nonverbal cues. It's like our bodies are speaking volumes before we even say a word.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? The book actually breaks down 11 different types of body language.
Yeah.
From micro expressions that flit across our faces to, how we use personal space. And I think one of the biggest takeaways is this importance of good posture, a relaxed demeanor, avoiding those fidgety habits that can kind of betray our nervousness.
Speaking of fidgeting, the book has a whole list of no-nos, like constantly checking your watch or touching your face, even scratching your head.
Yeah.
They even link each of those movements to specific psychological interpretations, helping you understand what those unconscious actions might be communicating to others.
Right. It's all about becoming aware of our nonverbal habits and consciously working to project the image that we want to portray. I mean, think about it. Someone who stands tall, makes eye contact, avoids fidgeting, they automatically come across as more confident and approachable.
Exactly. It's like sending that silent signal that says, hey, I'm comfortable and confident, I'm open to connecting with you. But let's be honest, even with good posture and a smile, starting a conversation, that can be a nerve-wracking experience for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So what does this book have to say about mastering the art of small talk?
Well,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just dismiss small talk as like superficial.
Hmm.
But this book really challenges that notion. Frames small talk as like the bridge to deeper connection.
Oh.
You know, those initial interactions that kind of pave the way for those more meaningful conversations.
Right.
I mean, think about it. How often have you just started with a simple like, hello, how are you? And ended up having a surprisingly deep conversation with someone you barely knew.
I know. It's always those unexpected connections that really kind of stick with you.
Yeah.
But I also know how challenging those initial interactions can be, especially when you're feeling, shy or unsure of yourself.
Yeah.
So, what are some of the tips that this book offers for leveling up our small talk game?
Well, the book gives you a whole toolkit of techniques, including having some engaging answers prepared.
Oh, yeah.
For common questions like, what do you do?
Yeah.
Or what are your hobbies?
Right.
It also emphasizes active listening and keeping the focus on the other person.
Okay.
One technique that really stood out to me was it was this idea of repeating your conversation partner's words back to them in the form of a question. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly effective for showing that you're paying attention and encouraging them to, like, elaborate.
It's almost like a verbal tennis match, right?
Yeah.
Bouncing the conversation back and forth.
Yeah.
It feels much more engaging than just like nodding along or offering generic responses.
Yeah, definitely.
But once you've mastered the art of small talk, how do you move beyond those initial exchanges and build that deeper rapport with someone? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, this is where the book really dives into the psychology of connection, highlighting the power of finding common ground
Okay.
and emphasizing shared experiences.
Mm-hmm.
It even encourages using we language to create a sense of togetherness, like you're on the same team.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how subtle shifts in language can have such a profound impact on how connected we feel to someone.
It really is.
And then there's the power of humor, right?
Oh, for sure.
The book mentions how inside jokes, those shared moments of laughter, can really solidify a bond between people. It's like creating this secret language that only the two of you understand.
Exactly. Inside jokes are a way of saying, we get each other, without actually saying it.
I love that.
Yeah, but let's shift gears a bit and talk about how these communication skills can be applied in, like, a professional setting.
Okay.
The book has a whole section dedicated to career success, and it stresses the importance of professionalism, especially when communicating with superiors.
Right.
It encourages being clear and concise, getting to the point quickly, and anticipating how your listener might react. Have you ever found yourself, like, rambling on in a meeting or struggling to articulate your ideas clearly?
Oh, absolutely. I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
It's like that feeling of knowing what you want to say, but not quite finding the right words, especially when you're feeling under pressure.
Yeah, for sure.
So what are some specific techniques the book suggests for navigating those tricky workplace conversations?
Well, one of the key takeaways is adapting your language to different situations. For example, the way you present yourself to a potential client might be very different from how you communicate with a colleague.
Right.
It's about being strategic with your communication, understanding your audience, and tailoring your message accordingly. It even touches on the importance of understanding nonverbal cues in a professional setting.
Oh, now that's something I'm really curious about.
Yeah.
How do those subtle body language cues that we talked about earlier, how do they play into professional interactions? Are there specific things that we should be mindful of?
Absolutely.
Okay.
For example, maintaining good eye contact during a presentation
Oh, okay.
can convey confidence and engagement, while, like, slouching or avoiding eye contact might be perceived as disinterest or even disrespect.
Interesting.
The book also emphasizes the importance of a firm handshake, a genuine smile, and avoiding those nervous habits like fidgeting or tapping your foot,
Right.
which can be distracting and detract from your message.
It's almost like having a secret weapon in your professional arsenal, knowing how to use body language to your advantage.
It is.
But now let's shift gears to something a little more lighthearted.
Good.
The book has this section titled, Party Like a Pro. And I have to admit, this is an area where I could definitely use some pointers.
Okay.
I tend to be more of a wallflower at social gatherings. But this book seems to offer some pretty bold strategies for making a grand entrance and working a room like a social butterfly.
It does, and it all starts with projecting confidence from the moment you walk in the door.
Okay.
So instead of clinging to the snack table,
Right.
the book suggests confidently entering the room, scanning the crowd, and even making a beeline for the most interesting person there.
Whoa, that's a pretty bold move, isn't it? Approaching a complete stranger can be so intimidating.
It can be.
What kind of advice does the book offer for breaking the ice and starting a conversation with someone you don't know?
Well, the book suggests using open body language, like keeping your hands visible and uncrossed. It also emphasizes making eye contact and smiling, which signals approachability. And when it comes to starting a conversation, it encourages finding common ground,
Okay.
perhaps commenting on the event itself, the music, or even a shared interest that you might have noticed.
It's almost like a treasure hunt, right?
Yeah,
Searching for those little nuggets of connection that can spark a conversation.
exactly.
And once you've started chatting, are there any tips for keeping the conversation flowing and making a memorable impression?
Well, the book emphasizes active listening,
Mm. Mm.
asking engaging questions, and remembering details for future interactions.
Okay.
It even suggests subtly mirroring the other person's body language, tone, and vocabulary,
Right.
which can create that subconscious sense of rapport.
Right. But as we discussed earlier, the key is to be subtle and authentic.
Yes,
No one likes to feel like they're being mimicked.
definitely not.
It's a delicate balance, isn't it? Finding that sweet spot between being engaging and coming across as too eager or insincere. But one thing that really resonated with me was the advice to just focus on being genuinely interested in the other person. After all, everyone has a story to tell.
Yeah,
And if we approach conversations with that curiosity and an open mind,
yeah,
we're bound to learn something new and make a meaningful connection.
absolutely.
Yeah, it is amazing how much you can learn from just like observing and being present in a conversation.
It really is.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to the nuances of communication and like how even the smallest adjustments can make a world of difference.
Yeah,
I feel like I've been given a whole new set of tools to connect with people on a deeper level.
yeah, it's been a fascinating exploration.
Yeah.
What really stands out to me is how this book emphasizes the importance of being intentional with our communication,
Right.
both verbal and nonverbal.
Right.
It's a reminder that like every interaction is an opportunity to, build relationships, learn from others, and make a positive impact.
You know, one of the most surprising takeaways for me was that technique of delaying your smile.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds so counterintuitive.
It does.
But the book explains that holding back your smile for just a moment can make it feel more genuine and make the other person feel special.
It is. It's a fascinating insight into the psychology of like human interaction. A delayed smile combined with warm eye contact can convey a sense of genuine pleasure at meeting someone.
Right?
It's like saying, I'm truly happy to be connecting with you without actually saying the words. But, as we've discussed, context is everything.
That's a great point. What works in one situation might not be appropriate in another.
Exactly.
For example, a delayed smile might be charming at a party, but it might not be the best approach in like a formal business meeting.
Exactly. And that brings me to a final thought I want to leave you with. As you explore these techniques and experiment with different approaches, consider how they might need to be adapted for different cultures and communication styles.
Right.
What works for one person might not resonate with another, and it's so crucial to be mindful of those individual differences.
That's such an important reminder. Communication is a dance, and it takes two to tango. So as you embark on your journey to become a master communicator, remember to be adaptable, stay curious, and always strive for genuine connection. And who knows, maybe you'll even discover some of your own unique communication techniques along the way.